I swear, I am not a Twilight OC, though clearly my face aspires to be one. Hi, my name is Ariana, and I've been trying to become a writer for a good long while now. This is a vlog about all the things that did not quite go my way. Welcome to Rejection Chronicles, episode 2. First of all, thank you for the kind comments you've left me, they really do mean a lot. After I posted the first episode of this vlog, I got pretty nauseous that evening. And while I'd love to blame it on the eggs that I've had, which were not of the freshest variety, I don't know if I can. I mean, I'm a broke-ass bachelorette who hates wasting food. Expiration dates mean nothing to me. It doesn't take a certified psychologist to figure out that taking a stock of my failures and letting go of my denial and exposing all of it to both my friends and strangers alike is, well, not the easiest thing I've ever done. And I can joke around and make light of it all I want, which I will certainly continue to do because it is a banging defense mechanism, but deep down it's harsh. But still, I think it will be worth it. I think it will be good for me. I've always tried so hard to save face, to keep everyone's approval, to maintain the appearances of optimism and competence, to feel validated. Along the line, I've started to really dislike myself, because every time I've masked the truth, it echoed back at me in my head. Lie because you're hopeless, omit the truth because you've nothing to show for yourself, tell them the excuses you no longer believe in, all that, you know. But now it's over, now it's all out here, so there will be no more reason to keep on doing that. And maybe through this emotional exhibitionism, you could say, maybe it will help me accept myself. I really hope so. I'm pretty sure subconsciously it's one of the reasons I wanted to do this vlog and do it this way. Force myself to face it and maybe see that it's not as horrible, you know. The thing that I've said in the first episode, that failing at something doesn't make you a garbage human, that's mostly directed at me. I've always measured my value by my success, and it also doesn't take a certified psychologist to figure out it's not very high right now. That being said, let's talk about something more fun, shall we? My first rejection from 15 years ago. Let's take a walk back in time. As you already know, I hail from the land of The Witcher and cyberpunk. And by the way, let the record show that I'd be totally on board with becoming an android way before it becomes extremely mainstream, okay? About 15 years ago, young me was finishing her first proper novel, in Polish of course. It was the time when Christopher Paolini and his Aragon were all the rage in all the media. Everyone was talking about how he was 15 when he published the book, and that sure put a deadline on my 14-year-old head, because obviously how could I be worse, right? I wasn't driven by jealousy though. It was more like I felt I had to match it to feel validated, because if I didn't, then that meant I was good for nothing and I couldn't write. I know. At that time I'd already been well into writing this first book, so all I really had to do was just floor it. It was a book I've started writing when I was 11 years old. Which is, let me tell you, a very unfortunate age to start writing a book. Don't start writing your books when you're 11, trust me. At that time, whatever you've written a minute ago, the next minute it will seem childish and infantile because you're just developing so fast and changing so fast, you won't be able to keep up with yourself. So if you don't just finish it instantaneously, that's going to be hundreds of iterations and changes and all of that. And let me tell you, that book has some amazing titles that serve perfectly to illustrate the problem I'm talking about. To this day, I even remember the amazing process I've used to choose the perfect name for my creation. I took a sheet of paper, then I took a pen and I started just listing all of the edgiest words I could think of. Mind you, it was time before Google was very widespread and the internet was Well, it wasn't on dial-up, I don't think. But it wasn't, very popular. I don't know if we've used Google at all, so there wasn't exactly a way to just go on the internet and type edgiest words list, right? Like you can do today when you're trying to name your World of Warcraft character, for instance. So little me sat there and just tried to think and think, and I don't remember all of the potential matches from that list, of course, but I do remember the strongest contender at that time, which served as a title for the book for a little while. And it was, dum 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 dum, The Cloak of Chaos. Why? Did it have anything to do with the plot? No. But it was also the time when the book featured a secret society called the Deers. They lived in the forest, and you could only join them if you proved your loyalty by drinking some rancid brew that caused deer antlers to sprout from your head permanently. Yes. But the title Cloak of Chaos didn't last very long. Its successor, it had a little bit to do with the plot, was, wait for it, Blood and Shadow. Yes. I accepted the edge, I drew from the edge, and I became the edge. Blood and Shadow was also a story that featured a tiny baby wolf that joined the main character and followed her around, and then a fairy dragon that talked, which also followed suit, and they were both following the main character around, being cute and frolicking, and the fairy dragon was giving her advice about life. And it gets better, friends. The main character was obviously an avatar of evil, who was oblivious to her own evil and her purpose, but she also made people's eyes bleed. So I guess there's that. There's the blood, and she was all dark with dark wings and stuff, so I guess there's your shadow. I hope Cal was the only Mary Sue I've ever brought to life. But my goodness, was she a Mary Sue of the grandest caliber? In my defense, later the book got much better. The wolf and the dragon were axed, the deer were executed. I remember that one of the deer's adventures, because they were supposed to be a plot about discovering the world, so they were going from place to place, and at one point they arrived at a goblin cemetery, and there was an evil mist, and then the skeletons of the goblins started to come up, and they were trying to stop them, or whatever the heck. And then one part that my mom just cannot forgive me for, and she always remembers that with a massive facepalm. It was like they went to some mountain and they had to pass through, but the mountain was inhabited by some huge birds that I've obviously called rocks, because that's what I knew from Heroes of Might and Magic and stuff. And the idea was that the birds were huge egomaniacs, and to let them pass, the deers had to bow to them and got on their knees and kept talking to them. Oh, you're so amazing, how wonderful you are, you're gorgeous. Stuff like that. I was literally the whole comic and the whole scene, and they had to pass, and the birds were like, peacocking around, and then they let the deers pass, and they went on. Yes, they went on. They went on to encounter what was my 12-year-old's idea of a political pastiche, which was so horrible. I'm literally cringing inside right now when I just try to remember it. That, thankfully, also got just erased from existence together with the deers. I would tell you more about it, but it's so incredibly irrelevant. At this point you wouldn't even get the joke and you wouldn't cringe properly, so I'm sorry. That's a loss. Cal also started playing second fiddle to another character who was much more bearable. His name was Rain, and he was an escapee of a military academy in a different realm, and he came here because, well, okay, he was a servant of the big, bad destroyer of worlds that was coming for this world. Well, I said more bearable. He also had a tail, by the way. And in my defense, the world did get destroyed at the end. There was no prophecy, and Rain was not a hero that would save the world, so I had that going for me. In the last phase, when I stopped being the silliest child ever, yet still remained quite an emo child, The book was renamed to Bruki in Helionu, which in translation is The Pavements of Inhelion. And yes, it's extremely on the nose. But from the perspective of time, I think that all things considered, the last version of this book was pretty damn decent, you know? And it was even edited by my mom, who herself is a writer and she's also a magazine editor, so she kind of knew what she was doing, you know? It was all ready before I turned 15, so, you know, I beat the Paolini. But since we're talking about my first rejection, of course, it didn't really work. This whole affair is really a testament of my mom's love and patience for me. I love you, Mom. Here's how it went down. As you may already know, if you're trying to publish your book in the United States, you will be doing this mostly through agents. Very few publishing houses accept unsolicited manuscripts. In Poland, on the other hand, it's quite the opposite. I don't know if we had any active agencies at the time I was trying to publish this book 15 years ago. Right now we have, I don't know, you could probably count them on the fingers of one hand, and they are not very active. We don't have this agent culture here. You can try to use their services, but mostly authors just send their books off to the publishers directly. You don't even write a proper query. You probably send a synopsis. It really depends on the publisher. Each of them, of course, have their own rules. And you usually just send your full book off instantly. And then they respond in several months. And that's it. You don't have any representative who will go and bug them for you. But on the other hand, that means that if you're an author, you can try to do it yourself. And here's where my mom's love and patience truly came to shine. I was a very passionate child, and I was also a very persistent child, and a very whiny child. So as you can imagine, it's quite an explosive concoction, because there I was with my lovely project, my book that I cared about so much. It was my entire, you know, inside life. And it was sent off to this publishing house. And I was also, you know, remember, I was on a deadline. I was nearing my 15 years of age, and I wanted to beat that damn Paolini kid, you know? I wanted to become the teenage wonder of Poland. So I remember every time I was coming home from school, I think it was either on Monday or Friday, whatever, once a week, I would call my mom and I would be like, have you called them yet? Did they say anything yet? Have they read it yet? And my mom always said, no, they haven't, because that's what they told her. I can't be 100% sure if she truly did call them every single week. I wouldn't blame her if she didn't. I seriously wouldn't blame her if she just called them once a month. But it doesn't matter, because she did call them every now and then, and they didn't read it. Ever. At some point, we simply gave up. It was one of those rejections that you never actually get, that kind of disperses. And I honestly can't remember why we only sent it to this one publishing house. Perhaps we sent it there and it took so long I've outgrown the book. Though I kind of doubt it, because I was really pretty fine with it at that point. It wasn't that kind of childish, infantile, dear, you know, antler thing anymore. But I don't think we have sent it anywhere else. We don't have that many publishing houses that publish hot fantasy. That was quite a hot fantasy. I can't remember, I'm sorry, it's just been so long ago, and clearly this part was just so repetitive and so emotionally taxing that it's just etched in my mind forever. To this day, I kind of think the publisher missed out, because the book was nothing special. I'm not saying it was your most run-of-the-mill fantasy. I'm not sure, it might have even had a prophecy. It was a hero story with a bit of a twist at the end, that it wasn't exactly your peasant hero going on to save the world, but the world wasn't saved and the hero was from another realm and had a tail. Whatever. Might as well have been a peasant hero that goes on a journey and then saves a life and gets a girl. They could have taken it, they could have, you know, slapped the cover on it and then slapped it on the billboards and be like, yo, we beat them Americans. Here's our 14-year-old writer, you know? Buy, go and buy. I'm pretty sure that might have worked. It was, after all, in the Christopher Paolini rage. So that was a wasted marketing opportunity, in my opinion. Am I wrong? Maybe. We shall never find out anymore. My battery died. And right on time, because that will be it for this first non-rejection story. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I really appreciate it. And the next week I will be talking about my Mind Baby project, the new amazing nightmare, and also about why I started to write in English despite what everyone around is saying. Because while it might not be different to you, it might not be strange to you, I know there is a lot of foreign writers that are writing in English nowadays. Here, in my surroundings, people that I know, they were always extremely critical of it, or at least baffled. So that might be a little bit of a story there. And with that being said, I wish you a lovely day, evening, night, whatever. And I hope I wasn't too much of a downer at start. And if I was, then I hope the deer make up for it. At least a little bit. So I hope to see you next week here, and bye!